Hey, hi. So in this video we're gonna build application like this. So here what I have done is I just take this, I just call this API and get all this data and display in the application in a list view. So it's a dummy JSON provider dummy.restapi example.com. So there is a get. So when we call this, we get the data like this. So you will see data like this because I'm using a Chrome extension JSON Viewer Awesome. So it's just uh, shows us in a pretty way now. So it contains two items: status is true and data. Well, data contains 24 items and each item is an employee object. So employee contains these all fields. Now I will show employee name and his salary. So as you can see, employee. So Tiger Nixon is first employee and his salary is 32,800. So I just displayed all that data here. So how I have done is I will first of all I will show you the how the app architecture is. So I will show you this. Okay, first thing, one second. Yeah, first, sorry, the UI means our employee space. So it contains an app bar and the list view. So there are two items. So first on the page initial, on init the page, we'll call this service. A service is a, I mean it's an more object, sorry, it's a class. So we'll call this service. I mean example in this use case employee service. So it will then call http get operation. Oops, one second. http get on that REST API earlier you have seen, and it will return a response, and it contains the body and the status code. So one I will forgot to tell you. Let me show you. Inspect it. So let's go to network. Yeah, just refresh it. So whenever you call the REST API, you will get. Let me. So you will get the data. The headers will contain the status code. We will get the status code is 200. That means we got data successfully. Okay, that means whenever it got response and the status code is 200, so that means we got the data, and we have to parse the data. So the response will get as a string. So we have to create a model that takes that response body in the sense this entire data, this we said as body, and that body, and it the model creates an object of employees that contains the list of employees, and a list of employees contains name, and that means first we have to decode that body because it's a string we get from the response that body is a string. So there is a method json dot decode. So we have to decode that into a json object. So in the dart language we can said like that it's a json map. Json is nothing but a map. So the model should convert it into a map that json responds into, and create a model and return that model to the service, and the service will return the data modeled, no, the model which created on that response that body to the UI. So UI will take the data and render this list. That means okay. Now first of all, how we have created that model? First we have to create a model. So here we got this data. First we have to create a model for like this. So first create a class that contains the status of a string, and the data is a list, and the list that contains this object, and this is also a model. This entire thing is a model, and this is also a model. This model contains id like that. So it will be very painful to create a model like this. For this, so just copy it, and there is service like app.quicktime.io, and if you see options, I forgot. Oh yeah, here options are there. um, so you can have some, you have to select the language, and these are some properties that you know, I guess. So basically I'm putting the encoders and decoders in the class itself. So that means we got a response.body is a string, right, from the service. So we will create from the an employees model from that raw JSON. So let me off this raw JSON. So what it do is, this employee dot from JSON will take that string and decodes. So what it does is, JSON dot decode. It's from this class, from this import. So it will take that string, and that string is a normal string. It's like a map. So assume that this all entire data is in one string. So like that, that string will be there, and json.decode will converted that entire string into a map. Okay, so that map will be given to employee model from JSON. So the employee model from JSON will take that map of string and dynamic. That means we have a string here, and we have, I mean, everywhere we have string and dynamic, and that employees, it will create employees model of status of what we got the status JSON of status, because it is taking it as a JSON, I mean, variable. Now that contains it's a map, right? So that means we can access the properties of that map like this. And it is also created another model. So data is a list of array, right? So it is it's a list of models. It is also a model. So it is also, we have to parse this too. So it's a by default it is created data. Later we convert into a employee if we needed, because the naming is not relevant to our JSON. Also anyways, it is a list of data, is nothing but list of data. That means from okay, we have to take what it do is, it will iterate to every data, I mean every item in the data, and in the map means iteration, and it will create an um, data, that means it's an employee from JSON. That means it from JSON. So it will give the JSON, and it will create a factory method, means that means it will returns an object, creates an object of with this data. So it will be created data. Now that employee model, the data will contain the list of employees of data. That means employees will be in the data. Okay, so that dot to JSON is not needed here, because we just needed parsing. Anyways, we just all copy it. So just copy it. Now we need a package. This is HTTP package, the dart package. Whenever we want to do get and post requests to the servers, so we need it. So it's very simple. Just copy it into your pubspec.yaml. Oops. Yeah, just paste it here under the dependencies. Note there should be one tab space here, just like this, the Cupertino icons. Now run this command, either flutter pub get or flutter packages get or anything, and just import whenever in the service. Now first I'll go to the main application. So here run app, simply run app material app. So if entire application should be wrapped in material app. So our home page should contain a one page only, employees page. Okay, let's go to this employees page. Before going to this employees page, let me talk about the service. Okay, this is our API service. Let me zoom in that a bit better. Okay, now it will return a future of employees model. Okay, here you can see that here. Let me delete this. uh, Zoom out a bit. Here whatever that copied there, it is here. Earlier you have seen this model, this entire thing is here, and data is not relevant, so we can rename that symbol every. Oops, I mistake. Okay, rename that symbol employee employee model. So it is employees model and list of employee model. Okay, you get it right. Now it will the data, I mean the data means it will iterate over the data from the JSON and creates each employees. Okay, right, you get the point, right? So right, next we'll go to this service, this API service. It is not, it is a simple class that will take care of API calls. Now it will return the future of employee, because the future means it's an asynchronous function. So asynchronous means we have to call the server and we have to await until the request completes. Okay, so first we have to, yeah, here is our API URL that I have copied it from here, the REST APIs, employees REST APIs. So URL and response, I mean we have to await this is a get request. It is from this package HTTP get request dot of URL. So whatever URL here, it will calls this you I mean it will call to this URL and we will get a response of type response is also from this HTTP. And whenever we got the HTTP status code is equal to 200, and sometimes here they have used status is equal to success. So whenever this success we get this data, so that means oh um, leave that, nothing to worry about it. Let me first copy this. Why I have done is, I will explain you 1 second. So okay, here the model itself is decoding our response to body. So by default we can see that the response body as a string. So if I can hold this, it's a string, right? So the string we can't get the data of status. So we e dot status equals to whatever the status, copy paste it. So whenever the API is status is success and we got the data, that means success, and we return this employees model object. So it is filled with that data, it is already decoded. Now in case if we don't get any status code or we get a failure in any case, we'll throw an exception. And by the way, we have written this in a try catch block. Try catch means whenever there is an error in this any part of the code, it will be error, the if any error raised in this any part of the code, that will be caught here. That means that error will be thrown here. And what it does is it is rethrowing. That means it is taking that error, and whoever calls it get posts method, it will throwing that error to that method. That means in UI there is a, I will show you employees page. Okay, simple code, right? So here we are creating the API service and we'll maintain two variables. So these two variables are helpful in whether the page the main API call has been done or nothing. If it's done, um, okay, I will explain you slowly. Just think. Okay, first, when the page opens, when the user page initiates, this init state will be called automatically. So it is calling init employees. That means it is in a actually it's a function. It's calling our API service dot get posts. Okay, now you can see that it is I we have written it in try catch block. So we are setting state is true. Setting state is true, that means the our loading will be true. Initial loading is true, but again we are setting is true. I will tell you later why I have set this again as a true, because whenever user wants to refresh it, we can simply call this init employees, and it directly sets true again. So I will show you that in a few minutes. Now it's a try catch block. Try catch block means we will, whenever any error we got in this part of the code, that will be caught here, that error. Okay, now, okay, if we got an error in the get posts, that will be that error will be rethrown. That means that error will be caught here, and that error will be thrown to this catch function. Whatever error we got in the get post, that will be rethrown. That means this try catch block will get that error, and this will throw that error to this catch block. Okay, so whenever we got an error, we are setting error equal to true and is loading is false. Okay, I think you got this point, right? So let's go to the build method. So this is where we build that page. It contains simply a scaffold, an app bar, and a build or loading our page. Okay, why it is, I'll tell you. So let's coming to this app bar. Okay, let's go to app bar. It simply contains employees, this one. It contains app bar and employee text. So I can see you can see this employees and text. So build and loading page, what it does is, if loading is equals to false, that means there is no loading, loading is false and error is false. If there is no error, we'll build the page. Or else, if loading is false and error is true, we build error. So in other cases, we build just simply loading. Now let's go to the build page. Okay, first explain. I will first we go to this error. Okay, error is nothing but simply centered text array retrieving data, and build loading is nothing but a simple center circular progress indicator. So we will just loading simple progress indicator. Now build page. So build page is nothing but a list view. A list view is children's will take a list of widgets, right? So after we got this, I mean, we have an employee model. When the API is success, we'll take that data into employees model. So before the page builds, I mean before the page loads, the employee model will be set. Okay, now the employee model dot data dot map. Oh, okay. So list view of build list. So what build list is, returns a list of widgets. Okay, so first what we do is, here is a map method. Map uh, employee models. Employee model contains two items: status and data. The data contains the employees list of employee model, right? So I have just forwarded it, and what it contains is a list of employees model of data. So we can hover that each employee model. This is an employee model and list style. Um, I mean, list style. It's a simple. I mean, it's a simple tile. Okay, oops. The title is a text of employee dot employee name. So I can get whenever control space I'll get employee name. So like this, because the model contains it's an employee model, so I can access those properties. And subtitle is salary, so it's not, it is a dot way of doing things. So whenever I dollar and open and close the brackets, it is treated as a value, and that value is a string, so I can just simply print it out. I mean text, the text will get that as a string. So and finally we have to convert everything to dot to list. So that to list will get that list. That means it's a list of list styles. That means list of list style is nothing but a widget. So list of widgets will be returned that to list view. So each for every employee we got that data. So so as you can see, so I will just, so you can see the page is initiating, and whenever until I got the data, it will just reloads. As you can, yeah, I got the data and it is just rendered. It's awesome. Now that's all, I guess. If you got any doubts, one more thing, I will just wrap it in a refresh indicator. So refresh indicator takes on refresh, it's an asynchronous function. We call this init employees. Okay, now what will happen is when I when I want to refresh it, I will just tap from here. Okay, I just scroll. Yeah, it's normal, it's calling that refresh. Excuse me. It will call that init employees, that init employees, the loading will be set as true. So for that I can see that. Okay, once for that moment, until I get the data, I will show that loading spinner, and get post will be called, and set state that loading will be false, and this will be that page will be built.